You're locked into Inception Radio Network, Superior, Wisconsin.
You're tuned in to NightVision Radio, exposing the truth one secret at a time. Prepare yourself as we explore the shadow worlds of suppressed history, secret knowledge, forbidden religion, and shine a light on the conspiracies to keep it all from us. Welcome to NightVision Radio. Hey, good evening, everybody. So happy that you joined us tonight. Hope you're joining us in the live chat room, by the way, at www.inceptionradionetwork.com. I try to monitor that, and my producer, Bill, helps out along with some of my other chat roomies there to draw my attention to the questions that you might have. So I hope you'll join us in there. We're pretty lively in there. Tonight, we've got a great show planned. My guest is a very special person. He's an ex-professional cop turned professional psychic medium. And boy, has he had some experiences that he's going to share with us. But the best part about it is he's going to share with us how we can develop our own psychic abilities. And I want to draw your attention just before I bring Geoff on to his brand new book called So You Want to Be a Psychic by Geoff Allen. And you can Google that. You can go to Geoff's website, and I'm going to get him to tell us again what that is in just a moment. But you should check out that book if you have any interest in developing your own intuitive nature, your own psychic abilities. I mean, my gosh, who doesn't? I mean, that's something that could help us all in business, in our social lives, in our family, and whatever. So check it out. So I'm going to welcome right now psychic medium Geoff Allen. Hey, Geoff.
Hey, thanks for having me on, René. Appreciate it. And welcome and hello from dreary, cold Ohio.
Oh my goodness! I don't envy you right now. Now I don't know if you guys are getting it, but I spoke with a good friend of mine today, and a recurring guest on this show, Gloria Amendola, this afternoon. She lives up in Connecticut, and she said they were expecting a big storm to come in, I think tomorrow night, and so she wasn't looking forward to that. She's been snowed in on quite a few times in the past couple of years, so. Is that what you guys are getting?
I think we're supposed to get hit also up here. It's funny. This is going to be my first winter in Ohio. I moved up from Galveston Island, Texas. So this is a new experience, or one that I haven't had since I lived in Colorado. But this is a whole different kind of cold than Colorado. But I'm happy to be on tonight. I think we're going to have some fun tonight on the show.
Oh, I think so too. I mean, we had a great conversation earlier in the day, and what an interesting life that you've had, and what an interesting life that you're having right now. But now you were an ex-cop, but you already had these psychic abilities when you joined the police force. Is that right?
Yeah, I've had it since I was as long as I can kind of remember. I was born in New Jersey, and then at age 7, we moved out to Gettysburg, Pennsylvania, and which is really good. That's really when I really started to understand that there was something to this, or I was able to pick up on things that people didn't pick up on, and lived there till I was 14, and then at 14 I moved out to Colorado, and in my family, it wasn't spoken of. It was one of those things where you don't talk about it. People are going to think you're crazy. It's your you just got a great imagination. So I kept it quiet.
A lot of times, when you hear about, a child that, is psychic from from day one, there is someone else in the family, or it seems to be generational or something like that. Was there no one like that? You just kind of cropped up the psychic one?
It was interesting. I was adopted at birth, and I was the only one adopted. Yeah, when I was born, it was funny. They told my mom she couldn't have kids, and then when I was born, she found out she was a month pregnant with my brother, and then she had my sisters behind him. So I was the only one in the family with a different genetic makeup. So that really kind of fueled my fire to find out what's going on with this. Why am I the only one? Why don't they see what I see, or why don't they believe me, kind of thing. So that's where that whole interest in there's got to be a scientific reason, because when I was 21 in Colorado, I went into the police academy and then became a cop. And they don't give badges and guns to guys who talk to dead people. So I just kept it quiet. You know, that's not good for promotions and good for hiring, and it's not the public perception that the public wants your local cop to have a gun that sees dead people. So it was just kept quiet, but it was something that I always used to assist, but it was never documented. I just, you just didn't do that. And even now, a cop, what's funny is the cops all have, you've heard of the cop hunch, and the cop hunch is very real, and all the cops will tell you, I had a hunch. Yep. And the hunch turned out to be right, but they don't believe in psychic premonition. So,
yeah, they just don't call it that. That's what it is, because you're absolutely right. You hear that very often. I followed my hunch. I followed my gut, and I think we do that a lot in our lives, and we don't realize what we're doing. And sometimes we deny our gut too, and it turns out sometimes not so well. I think you were telling me earlier today that we really all are equipped for this. It's
absolutely.
Like, who knows why some people just seem to sprout up like that, and others of us have to work on developing it. But I think one of the things toward developing it is recognizing it when it's happening. Because I think we can do things, like you think of someone and the phone rings and it's them, and we just say, oh, what a coincidence, But really, you had a little premonition that, of what was going to happen next. And that sort of thing. So, and I think we shy away because of the stigma of the woo-woo, the psychic, a lot of, especially guys, wouldn't want to talk about being, intuitive or being a psychic because they think it doesn't sound macho for some reason. But who wouldn't want to develop as much of their power as possible to navigate, life? I mean, there's nothing, feminine about that, really. Although women do seem to be in touch with their intuitive side. But anyway, go ahead and talk about your time as a cop or wherever you wanted to take it next. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. It's interesting though when you talk about the cop hunch or how there are skeptics out there that just say, well, this is a learned behavior, or you're just a good guesser. And I said, I say to those people, if I was that good a guesser, I'd have done better in high school. So it's not. I'm not playing roulette. I'm not rolling a ball around a wheel and hoping it lands on number 27. It's just something that I see and feel, and it comes down to creativity. Even where does creativity come from? There's a whole dialogue we can have on that. And if we want to take it down to just an elementary type example, I tell a skeptic. I ask him, "Have you ever caught a baseball? Or has someone ever tossed you a set of keys and you caught it?" And they'll say, "Well, of course." Well, how did you know where the keys were going to land? How did you know where the ball? How does an outfielder be able to stand there and catch a ball unless he's going to predict where that ball is going to go and then catch the ball? Now, sure, you can learn the ball's trajectory and what have you, but every instance of a fly ball in baseball is different. whether it lands in the same spot or not. But the atmospheric conditions can influence it. The barometric pressure, wind, all that. How does a person in a baseball field catch a ball unless they predict where it's going to fall? So there's a lot to it, and that's what I kind of get into a little bit in the book, is how the scientific aspect of it and our brain chemistry is an electrical firestorm, and how that participates in psychic work. So as well as the spiritual side, I really feel that as mediums, as psychics, as people who are sensitives, they are the bridge that connects science and spirit. And we're working on getting tools to measure this, but we just don't have enough tools or enough case studies yet to prove that spirits exist. Unless, I'm kind of in the school right now of where there's so many paranormal shows on TV. There's so many clips and what have you online, that it's almost ridiculous to think that there isn't such thing as ghosts or spirits or energies that are out there. And that's kind of where I kind of go with the book a little bit, is going into the theory of electricity and how it plays into communication with spirits and how spirits use electricity to communicate. And that's where I kind of went with that. But back to my law enforcement days, it was very the energies that you use and the ability to pick up on people, for instance. There are times when you might go on a traffic stop and the hair on the back of your neck stands up and says, okay, something's just not right here. Something doesn't feel right. Either the guy is giving off a weird vibe, so to speak. There's something not right, and it causes the officer to be alarmed. Or like on a building search. Every cop has done hundreds of building searches. Well, there's always that one search that you go, wait a minute, something's in here. I can't see it. I can't hear it, but I feel it. I feel like there's someone hiding in here, and they'll be right. So these are all your ability to pick up on energies.
Right, like you get the feeling that you're being watched. And you turn around and somebody is staring right at you, Yep.
Yeah,
how would you know that, if your back was turned?
And then how can you deny that there's a sixth sense? Yeah.
And it has to do, you say, with basically electricity. And our bodies are electric, so that makes sense.
And that's just it. If you get into I love getting into the science side of it, where if you think about it, our brains are made up of electrical firestorms. And that's proven. That's a fact. And our heart. What happens when a person has a heart attack and their heart stops? What do you use to start it back up? Electricity. Yep. They hit you with the defibrillator paddles. Mm-hmm. And so there's something about the electrical energy in our bodies and our connection to life and consciousness. Well, if you look down scientifically at it even more so, the electrical energy doesn't just disappear. It doesn't die. It transfers. So when we die, that electrical energy in our body has to go somewhere. It comes from somewhere and it goes to somewhere. We're constantly exchanging electrical energies. If you walk across the floor in February or January now and you touch a doorknob and you get zapped, you're picking up static electricity. Mm-hmm. If you run your hand across a TV screen that's been turned off, you feel the static electricity on it, but you can't see it. If you pop a wintergreen lifesaver into your mouth and turn out the lights and go stand in front of a mirror and chew on it with your mouth open, you can see the sparks, but you can't feel it. So there are electrical energies out there that we can see but not feel, and feel but not see. So it's almost ridiculous when a skeptic tells me that ghosts don't exist, when we can prove that there are energies out there. When paranormal teams go on to an investigation, what usually malfunctions? Their electrical equipment. Their batteries drain. Their cameras die. There's all types, and then when they pick up EVPs, their ear can't hear it, but the digital recorder may. And
That's right.
because, and what's
the same
interesting
too with, I was telling you earlier, and a lot of people that listen to this show know that, I have this orb phenomenon in my house, and I don't see them with the naked eye, but I can see them through the camera. And they're caught on film. You can see them on film later. Why do you think that is?
That's interesting, and that's these bits of electrical energies that are resident all around us. Those are your orbs. And matter of fact, if those in chat want to go out to YouTube and search my name and Beth Deering, which is Deering. Deering is in like the animal. They search those two names on YouTube. You'll find a couple of videos we took September 26th at a coffee house where we were doing a live broadcast of a radio program. And what happened was we'd set up a camera on a tripod to just get some promotional video. Now, after about 20 minutes into the recording, I look up and the flash on the camera went out. And so I thought, well, great, this camera was plugged in. It shouldn't have died like that. I wonder if we hit the end of our data or something and it shut down. And we had someone go behind the camera and look, and the camera was still rolling, but the flash went out for some reason. And what happened was we went back and we reviewed the data. Now, a lot of it was corrupted that night, and we lost about 2 gigs worth of data of filming. But we were able to recover about 43 minutes of it, and as we start going through it, for what I was viewing it as a promotional type video, was garbage because there was so much interference with these blue dots. And Beth looks at it and says, "Oh my God, those are a bunch of orbs." And I said, "Oh, let me look." And we looked, and we posted those videos on YouTube. It's pretty interesting if those in chat and the listeners want to check those out. The first video is a 4-minute video. We caught 11 orbs in that first 4 minutes.
So you're saying go to YouTube and put in Geoff Allen, and that's Geoff Allen, Allen, and Beth Deering, Deering, and you can find those that video with the orbs in it. And you said
exactly.
Is there a date on it? Is the September 26th date on it, or some identifying thing?
Yeah. It says the title says something like question mark orbs caught on camera. And it's dated the 26th of last year, 26th of September last year. They can review that. Those are pretty. There's 3 different videos up there. One's a 2-minute. The 2-minute one shows where the flash actually goes out, and you can see my reaction in front of the camera. I look at it and go, and I'm pointing the camera. And I point to someone off camera, and I'm like, "Can you check that out?" Because we were in the middle of a live broadcast. I couldn't just stop the broadcast.
Yeah.
And so. And the 4-minute video was very interesting. Was the autofocus failed in that 4-minute video at one point, but it also functioned flawlessly at another point in the video. So prior to it failing, you see the autofocus was great, and then for some reason the autofocus went out and then came back in at the end of the tape, at the end of the 4-minute segment. So something was going on. There's also an EMF detector in that video that you can see the red light flashing on it throughout the video. So there was something electrical going on in the room at the time. So these things are interesting, and there are so many videos like this out there that have been captured by different people, and I have a hard time thinking that this many people fake these things. Are some of them explainable? Absolutely. Now, these videos were sent off to people in film production and photographers, and we haven't. The only thing anyone has been able to say is that they've said that it's not insects, it's not dust, and it's not lens flare, but they can't say what it is. Yeah, and that to me is a validation of, well, I know what it is. But,
exactly.
And I think that the orbs, what they are the spirits collect electrical energy. They need it to communicate. They need it for their consciousness. And if you think about it, a spirit, in order for them to, say, move a coffee cup across a table, requires a lot of energy when you don't have a physical form. Can a lightning bolt move it? Absolutely. We see it all the time. A lightning bolt will knock down a tree. So a little amount of energy, could it move a coffee cup? Sure. But it would require quite a bit. Even less than that energy would be something like a whisper in someone's ear, someone who's clairaudient, where they just need to barely move the muscles in the ear, the bones in the eardrum. And that's, if we think about that, what are the most sensitive bones in your body? It'd be the ones in your eardrums. So what would be common for them to have to manipulate to move something in your body to communicate with you? Naturally, it'd be in your ear. Now, as far as a vision, that might be even easier. In other words, their third eye, if they're wanting to communicate with a spirit. That would be a little bit easier because then they don't have to move anything. They just have to plant a seed in the brain and communicate that way through electricity, because that's our power plant, is in the brain with our pineal gland and all that. So that is even easier for them to manipulate. Smells. A smell doesn't require really any physical manifestation. Same with a taste. When I get tastes in my mouth, it's just a manipulation of the taste buds versus the manipulation of the olfactory nerves in your nose, and that goes straight to the brain. So those require less energy for these entities to send messages.
When you hear people talking about, I smelled my mother's perfume, suddenly, in the room. Is the smell in the room or is it in their nose?
It's my belief that it's both, and it can be. For instance, I did a session with Beth back in November, and it was real interesting. We sat there. Now, when I go to a session, and likewise with Beth, she's a very gifted medium, and we do a lot of events together. Well, when we go, we don't wear perfumes, we don't smoke, we don't want to contaminate the area that we're in with our own sense, so to speak. That way, if something comes through, we can smell it. Well, as we're sitting there in this session, we started talking about how this one young man's grandfather was coming through. And Beth says, she goes, I'm smelling aqua velva. And yeah, grandpas were known for aqua velva back then, and so that made sense. He said, yeah, that was all that he reeked of it. Well, what was interesting was I was sitting probably about 3 feet away from Beth, and I was like, I can smell it too. And what was fun was we got the gentleman up from across the room, and we said, come over here and sit here. And as soon as he sat down, he goes, that's my grandfather. I can smell it. And I stood up and went over to his wife, and I said, look, it's not me. Smell me. And they were like, no, you don't smell like, no. And I said, go stand over there. And Beth walked away, and I said, smell Beth. And she doesn't smell like it, but when you sat down in this seat, it smelled like you could smell the aqua velva, and it was very temporary. And so it wasn't like we planted the smell or anything like that. It dissipated. So that was their validation that, yeah, this is him, as well as other, things that were coming through to us as mediums that we were able to relate to the folks. But it was, the smells are very common. And you can use them to almost, and I want to be careful how I put this. You can almost use them to identify also negative entities, because I do deliverances, and I've worked with demonics and cleansings, those types of things.
So
and
when you say you do deliverances, some people might call those casting out demons, and some people might call that an exorcism. But
right.
But it's all the same thing, basically, right? A deliverance.
Right. And that's where you get into an exorcism is a rite done by a Catholic priest. I'm not a Catholic priest, and I'm not Catholic, so I don't do exorcisms. That's an exorcism is an actual rite by the Catholic Church.
Yeah.
And so they're the ones that do those. But everyone else will do what you call a deliverance. It's the same, casting out demons and, you know, cleansing those that are being tormented. And so it's the same thing, just by a rose by any other name. And
that could be in a person, and that could be in a home.
Absolutely. And that happens. Now, you've got different types of possessions and oppressions and ways that the negative entities can influence and torment. And so it's not necessarily always like the movies where you got the head spinning around and throwing up and all that. They can affect you psychologically. They'll do all kinds of things. And what's interesting was I did deliverance back in December, where while the lady had called me and she said, "Hey, we've got something we think running around our house." Well, there's an interview process that we go through to determine if this is mental illness or if it's an actual spirit versus and then if we determine there is something paranormal going on, what type of paranormal? Is it something that's just upset, or is it something that's just interfering, or is it something truly demonic, which is rare? It's very rare. You can have an entity that's angry but not demonic. And so you really, there's a whole interview process and an approach to all this that you go through before you go running in, especially as a medium, because you don't just want to go running in there and say, okay, it's a demon and do your hocus pocus thing and it's gone. It doesn't work that way. There's a counseling that you do to make sure this doesn't get welcomed back in once you get rid of it. That you got to find out the history of the house. There's all kinds of stuff, because not necessarily every spirit had a Christian walk, for instance. And if you're using Christian tools against a spirit that didn't believe in Christianity, they're going to laugh at you. So, for instance, you may have an angry Native American spirit that had a Native American walk when he was here, and then when he crossed over, you built a house on his turf, and he's not happy about it or whatever. And that Native American spirit, your Christian tools aren't going to be effective against it because it doesn't believe in your tools. And as well as demonic entities, that had a Christian walk, you can be effective, but you got to watch it. You know, there's no cookie cutter solution, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So that's what gets interesting when you start doing this kind of stuff. And that's what my next book is going to be about, is how to do cleansings and what have you. Because you're outgunned. They don't have a physical form. So they've got access to knowledges that you don't have. So they're very smart. And they will trick, they'll lie, they'll deceive. If it's truly demonic, if it's something that's just angry, you're still outgunned. But there's a whole level. In other words, there's a hierarchy. There's a whole hierarchy to energy and how it coagulates. So it's an interesting field, and I'm constantly talking with historians, clergy, people who really know about these things and different walks, Wiccans, pagans, the whole nine yards. I try to surround myself with very resourceful people that know what they're doing with really good experience, because I don't know sometimes, and 9 times out of 10 I don't know. So I've got to call people who do and find out what I'm going up against as a medium, so that I don't get myself into trouble or get in over my head, which I've done. And it's not a pleasant place to be.
Yeah. Now, we're going to have to take a break, but we had a question from the chat room about, what are some of the indicators that you might have some kind of a negative entity in your house? And I'm going to let you talk about that when we come back.
Fantastic.
You're listening to IRN, the Inception Radio Network, Chicago, Illinois.
Are you a fan of Inception Radio Network? Do you reckon it's the best alternative talk radio station on the planet? Well, if you do, head to facebook.com/Inception Radio Network and like the page. Tell your friends, spread the word, and keep listening to the best.
Hello, Inception Radio Network. Would you like your favorite show to be played again live on air? Well, now the choice is in your hands with IRN's live request portal, an easy way to request your favorite show with a simple click. IRN's live request portal now gives you exclusive access to all the shows. How easy is it? Simply type a show name or a guest name, click request, even write a dedication message, and that's it. Try it now. Simply visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com, click on the live request tab under the show menu. Now playing your favorite show is just a mouse click away.
Don't have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty cell phone or landline and call into our listen line at 401-283-6700 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, that call-in number is 401-283-6700. For the Inception Radio Network, I am MJ.
You didn't forget what's coming up tonight, did you? Hi, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Never miss that interview you were looking forward to or the show on your favorite topic. Follow IRN on Twitter, I_R_N, and get reminders about the evening's live shows as well as fun and important updates throughout the week. That's I_R_N, and never miss a great show again. Psst. Are you looking for a cure for boredom? Never worry. IRN's new interactive website introduces a number of ways to pass time while you listen to your favorite show. Choose anything from the IRN chat lounge, the game lounge, video lounge, or the mood lounge. These fun, exciting features let you chat in real time with fellow listeners, view live skywatches, play daily posted online games, or pick a show based on topic. The choices are endless. Use your time wisely, keeping it all on IRN.
Hey, IRN listeners, make sure you tune in to NightVision Radio with René Barnett. René will be exposing the truth, one secret at a time. When? Thursdays. Every Thursday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Where? Right here on IRN.
Hey, welcome back. You are listening to Night Vision Radio. I'm your host, René Barnett. And talking with me tonight, or with us tonight, is Geoff Allen. He's a former cop and a professional psychic medium. And Geoff, before we went to the break, we had a question from the chat room about, we've been talking about house cleansings and the like, and you were saying, sort of each case is different, and you don't just jump to the conclusion, oh, gee, there's a demon in the house. But are there some indicators that a person might have that something negative was in their home? What kind of signs are there?
That's a great question, and I'll answer it like this: when I'm first approached by someone that says, "Hey, I think I've got something running around my house that's real nasty," well, I ask, I let them do the talking. What's going on? What are you seeing? What are you feeling? What are you hearing? What are you smelling? What are you tasting? What are you experiencing? What kind of paranormal activity? There's not just one thing that we focus on when we go into these situations. It's the totality of it all. Are there, for instance, what type of paranormal activity are you seeing? What makes you think it's demonic versus just a ghost? And then we take that and then we go from there. Some of the things that we look for, smells. Are things missing that are causing chaos in the family? Are there, physical things that are going on? You can look for scratches, bite marks, those types of things, things being misplaced. Then there's also psychological things that can happen. Are people, have they changed? Are their personalities different? Are there addictions involved? Their body odor can change. Their hobbies, their way of life. There's a lot of things that you can look for psychologically. That can be an indicator that someone's being influenced by something pretty ugly. And before anything's, declared that in that demonic realm, and I hate using that word because it's very rare that something's actually truly demonic. It just may be a tormented soul that's in there causing chaos. Or it can be something that you moved in and maybe you removed a chest of drawers that they were attached to, that they really liked, and you're like, we got to get this old thing out of here. And they're upset about it, and they want to let you know it. Also, there can be the other side of it where there may have been some chaos in the residence. There may have been some bad things going on in there, and then you have taken over the establishment and moved in, and they're happy with you. And they don't want you to freak out. They don't want you scared. They want you to know that they're at peace with what you're doing. So they can. There's a lot of different things to look for, but those are some of the things that draw up the red flags. Have there been?
Is it possible that there is like remnant energy from something bad that's happened in the home? Maybe someone was murdered in the home, or there was a lot of, like you said, addiction and problems, and can that end up, some of that staying over and causing a negative feeling about the house or negative energy in the house?
Oh, absolutely. Whatever the activity was going on in the house, it could have been something prior to the people who were there, that was residual left over from an event that occurred prior to a suicide, a homicide, these types of activities that are really negatively affected. For instance, like a homicide, there's usually not a whole lot of good things that went down during a homicide. Right. Same with a suicide. There's usually not a whole lot of happiness and good positive energy around a suicide. So when these things occur in a residence, sometimes the energy associated with the person that committed the act, or the victim that committed the act or was involved in the act, that the energy that was associated with that can linger. Absolutely.
Like if someone was in a super heightened state of fear, a victim or something, maybe that leaves some kind of residue.
Absolutely. Because if you think about it, when we experience fear, anxiety, worry, what happens to our brains? It releases adrenaline. And what does adrenaline do? It creates a lot more firestorms, a lot more sparks in the brain. So you're drawing in a lot more energy. And that's almost like a gas pump to spirits. That's why a negative entity will want you to experience fear so that you can release more electrical energy, and it gets your heart rate pumping faster, more sparks in the heart, the whole 9 yards. And that's like a gas pump. They're not actually trying to get you to fear because they get a kick out of it. They're trying to get you to fear so that you can feed them. You can give them more electricity. So it's easier for them to do it negatively. Now, your relatives, when they come to you, they don't want you to fear. They know that, and I've flat out told my dead relatives, don't show up as an apparition at the foot of my bed. It'll freak me out. I'm like, show me signs a different way. And they do. They're very prominent in my life in many ways, and it's been proven. I teach mediumship, and it's pretty funny because most of my students have all channeled my grandparents at one time, to the point where I've even got an 11-year-old student. She sat there and told me my grandfather's name, his date of birth, everything. And I said, well, that's him, as well as some valid signs that it occurred that day that this little girl could not have known. So that's okay for me. Yeah, that's okay for me to. I would rather have them do that than to show up at the foot of my bed at 3:00 in the morning, grabbing on my pinky toe, waking me up to talk. And that's So our loved ones, the good entities, they don't want us to fear. They want us to be comforted. Well, when we're comforted, our heart rate slows down, our adrenaline doesn't pump. We're not amped up. We're not releasing a whole lot of energy. So they're okay. They want us to know that they're there, but they'll send more subtle signs sometimes, or they'll come through in a dream. those types of things. They're not going to sit there and throw a plate across the room or move a coffee cup. It's the negative entities that will try to intimidate by doing that. It's a dog and pony show that they're putting on, or throwing a temper tantrum, and that's what they're doing, is to try to get you riled up. A lot of times, what they'll do is they'll try to befriend a child, because the child, as children, they don't understand what faith is as much as we learn about faith as we grow older and learn to control our fears and what have you. So they'll appear as a very friendly object to the child, like the child's invisible friend kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And what'll happen is that will welcome the energy in, and they'll play on the child's innocence to get welcomed into the residence, so that it can start manipulating. And then what happens is that, for instance, this deliverance I'd done in December was a family had come to me, and I turned to the mother and I said, "You've got a 2-year-old son. He talks to spirits." This was during a session. And she said, "Oh, how would you know that?" "Yeah, he does do that." And I said, "Okay." And I told her, I said, "It's okay." I said, I can't tell you if it's a good spirit or not. I said, "But just keep an eye on it. If anything weird happens, give me a call." Well, within about a week later, I got the call. And she said, "There's a lot of weird things that are going on, and he's starting to experience nightmares and fear. And this is not a friendly, friendly type energy." And I said, "Well, I can't tell you what it is over the phone." Well, while we were speaking on the phone, and she was relating to me all the paranormal activity that had been going on surrounding this child, and in the house, the Christmas tree was up, and she had a glass ball as an ornament on the Christmas tree. And she says, "I'm going to have to let you go. One of the ornaments just flew across the room and smashed on the carpet. And I've got glass everywhere, and I've got a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old running around. I got to clean this glass up." Well, when I'd gone out to the house, the carpeting was shag carpet. And we tried to recreate just dropping the ball off the Christmas tree, which the hook was still on the tree even from where the ball came off. So we knew the exact location where the ball was. And the ball, if we just dropped it, it would get caught in the tree. It wouldn't even hit the ground. And then we actually held the ball up from, a shoulder height where the ball was placed on the Christmas tree above the carpet, dropped it, and it wouldn't break. It just kind of bounced. And so for this to
there had to be some kind of force behind it.
Exactly. And she witnessed this while she was on the phone with me. And ironically, at the time, the phone was breaking up. We were having all kinds of static problems with the phone. Which, of course, when these energies manipulate, they cause electrical interference all the time because they're sucking energy. So there was all kinds of things that actually went down involving that deliverance, which was interesting. Not intimidating per se, but definitely out of the norm. For instance, when I went to the child's room, I went around the house doing my thing, my little cleansing thing, and when I went to the child's room, I confronted the spirit in the closet of this child's closet. And during that event, there was a nightlight behind me plugged into the wall, one that's on a switch, not on a dimmer, not light sensitive, but just an actual physical switch. And didn't think anything of it. It was 3:00 in the afternoon. The sun was out, so there was no need for it to be on. When I went around the room doing what I needed to do, the light was turned off. It was not on. Well, after I got done confronting it in the closet, we left the room and I finished the house. And afterwards, Beth had asked me to try. She pulled me off to the side and took me to the child's room. So I want to show you something. And we went into the room. The light was on, and I thought, that's interesting. Nobody's been in this room. And I said, that wasn't on. I would have I know it wasn't. My face was right in front of it at one point. And I said, when did that? And she said, while you were confronting the spirit in the closet, that light started coming on and it started pulsing. And now it's on. And I said, wow, that's interesting. And she said, nobody wanted to say anything to you when you were doing it because we didn't want to interrupt you. And I was like, no, that's good. I'm glad you didn't. I was kind of focused. But that was definitely interesting. And then we had some other things occur. Matter of fact, this was a Catholic family. And they had their grandmother's rosary. And when I went, I always make holy water inside the residence when I do these deliverances. And while I was making the holy water, I was holding the rosary. And after getting done making the holy water, I looked at the gal who owned the house there, and I said, this is your grandmother's. And she says, yeah, it's 100 years old, and it's been, handed down. And I said, well, your grandmother's coming through. She's here. And I said, she's got doilies everywhere. She's showing me doilies. I don't know what that means, but she's saying that you'll know or you can find out. And she says, I don't know what that means. I didn't know her that well. And I said, okay, well, give me a call. Let's get rid of the spirit in here, the bad one. So the next day she calls me and she says, my grandmother was known as the doily lady. She said she gave doilies as presents. She made them. That was her. That was like her business card was doilies. And I said, okay, all right. And she said that my mom validated it. I said, okay, that makes sense then. So there's all kinds of good things that occurred because of this. And then what was interesting is that the entity that the 2-year-old had been afflicted by in that residence had a name for it, and its name was Bad Wolf. Okay, well, there's a red flag.
Wolf. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my friend, Bad Wolf. And I was like, oh, boy, here we go. And this child would incessantly talk about Bad Wolf throughout the day, mention it 100, 200 times a day.
Oh,
and now the children are never present. We don't want children in the house when we do stuff like this because we don't want to plant a seed that is not there. And I'm very careful about speaking to a child about anything. Well, after that deliverance, I was checking in with the family every day. Hey, how are things going? What's going on? Because I need to know, because these things will try to come back. And that's why there is counseling and follow-up involved, because you can't just go, okay, well, it's done. See you. Have a nice day. You need to stay on this. Otherwise, if some things are not changed, maybe some behaviors, or just to make the family aware that, hey, has there been a lot of arguing going on? And there's all kinds of stuff that welcomes the stuff back in. And she said, you know what? She said, since you were here, that child has not mentioned that name, Bad Wolf, since. Mm-hmm. And she goes, this is incredible, because that's all he would ever talk about. And I said, well, that's interesting. And they didn't tell him that, hey, we got rid of Bad Wolf today or anything like that. I said, don't talk to him about it. Just let him talk, and just pay attention to what he's saying. If he's waking up in the middle of the night screaming, and she said, no, he's sleeping through the night. He's doing great. So these things, and it's not like, and I said, you got to stay on it. You have to stay on your prayers. As Catholics, they had prayers and stuff I could mentor them on that were Christian, in the Christian walk, and that are, straight out of the Bible. Like, Psalm 91 is a great one. That's like a flamethrower. And so I said, stay on these prayers, mean them when you say them, and say them out loud. Let it, so that way they know you're not welcome here, and you'll call in your angels and guardians. And so it's really interesting when you're able to help a family like that, and to find out that, okay, this child had no idea that we were there or did anything. What's the basis for him now not saying anything? Yeah. When so it's very interesting, and the paranormal activity has stopped. There's nothing going on. Now I told him, I said, no, you can't just go, okay, great, it's gone, and then go back to doing, just go back to normal life. You've got to stay on it, because the first thing that it'll want to do is it'll want you to think that you won, so that you let your guard down again, and then boom, it'll come right back in. Mm-hmm. So there are certain protections and stuff you got to do that you can do to help against that. But the most part is you've got to stay on it. If you are a faith-based family, you've got to stay on your faith. And kind of what I talk about in the book, too, is not only the scientific side of it, the electrical energy and all that, there is a very strong spiritual, faith-based point that needs to be made when you're communicating with spirits. And that's whatever your higher power is. You know, I've instructed pagans, Wiccans, the whole 9 yards in mediumship. And so long as they are of a loving walk in their faith, then I'll work with you. If your faith is based on darkness, then I can't help you. And so it's like I'm a Christian. I'm not a great one, but we can still make C's and get in, you know. And so I try, but I'm far from holy. But I tell people, I'm like, we're all trying. It's like we're all trying to get to McDonald's when we die, and the golden arches. And so, whatever your faith is, so long as it's a selfless faith and it benefits mankind and it's based on love, then you're cool. Then we're basically all trying to get to the same spot. There's a lot of different ways you can get to McDonald's. There are a lot of different roads. You can take one street or take another, but so long as you're going to end up there, then we're all in the same boat. Our energy is trying to get to the positive side. And your faith as a Christian, and when I'm instructing Christians, doing deliverance for Christians, I tell them, you have to not fear while we're going through this, because you may see some weird stuff. You have to know that if the devil himself shows up with horns and a pitchfork, you got to go, you know what, even if you strike me down dead today, I know I'm going with God in Christ. So you hit me with your best shot, you're not going to win. You're not getting my energy. I'm not going to fear you. And that's very difficult sometimes for people to understand that concept of, if you start fearing, then you're going to feed him electricity. And he's going to, in whatever the entity or entities are that are negative, they're going to go after the one they can intimidate. And that I've seen happen. And it's very real. I was in a situation in Fort Worth, Texas, about a year and a half ago, where there was a 6-year-old child who was being tormented, would not sleep in his room, was scared to death, was waking up with sleep paralysis and all kinds of wicked stories. And he wouldn't sleep in his room. They'd force him to go sleep in his room at night, and then they'd wake up in the morning, he's sleeping on the couch or in his sister's room, because he was having a hard time in his room. Well, I went around and did my thing in their house. And then that evening, during the time that I was doing the deliverance in the child's bedroom, which was during the day, the children were not present and never are, but the parents were. And during that time, what was interesting, the father's cell phone goes off, and the caller ID showed that the call was coming in from number 1. Well, when he answered it, it was nothing but static. Very strange. That kind of freaked the mother out a little bit. And so it upset her. And because there was definitely something going around, she could feel it. Because she was very sensitive. Well, that evening, about 1 a.m., I get a text message from the father who says to come into the master bedroom, something's wrong. And his mother and his wife was there in a full-blown panic attack, and had scratches on her back and was really, really getting tormented. It had attached itself to her.
Did it pick up on her fear? Or?
It did.
Yeah.
Yep. And so it was like, oh, I can intimidate her, and she'll get her energy going, and boom, that's my gas pump. That'll give me some energy. I can get her riled up, and it did. And I was able to put her into a meditative state and calm her down, and then we got rid of it that night. And since that night, that child has had no problems. Now, that child had no idea that I did anything in the house. But and oddly enough, since that time, he's had no problems sleeping, has no problems entering his bedroom. He sleeps in his bedroom now, the whole 9 yards. So there was definitely something to that, and something was really ugly. So these things are very real. And the paranormal, they had a lot of paranormal stuff going on in their house as well. Books flying off the shelves in the child's closet. I don't know what it is with me in closets, but I guess I'm. But
it seems like you hear that a lot. Like something is in the closet. you've seen a lot of shows like that, where the ghost or the whatever it is in the closet. It's usually in the kids' closet, and it seems to be, it's like a hiding space or something. I'm not sure what that's about.
Well, I think what it comes down to is I think that these spirits know that kids watch a lot of TV, and what do you see on all the creepy TV shows? It's in the closet. So they know that if they can pose as what the kid can relate to as something, hey, there's something in my closet and it's not nice, if they know that, they'll play off of it, sure. Because they'll say, okay, if I throw a book off the shelf in the garage, it's not going to be as intimidating as when Junior's trying to sleep and I knock it off the shelf in the closet where he already thinks there's something bad in there. So that's it makes sense. In other words, if you were a ghost, what would you do? You go to the closet. Everyone's afraid of the closet.
Now, when you're talking about doing these cleansings or these deliverances, one of our chat room members, Carol, said, does Geoff believe he has a unique gift to provide this deliverance, or can anyone develop this ability?
That's a great question. It's my belief that everyone has the ability to communicate with spirits, that we all have that ability, that little, it's like playing basketball, for instance. Everyone can play basketball. Not everyone's going into the NBA Hall of Fame, but everyone can at least try to shoot a free throw, or at least understand the game and scorekeep, for instance. Everyone can participate in it. Now, when you get into stuff when you're dealing with the real negative type energies and you're actually going after them, it's a different type ball game, because they know you're coming for them. They already see it. And when they do that, they can go after your friends, your family. They can go after you. And I call it pulling an end around. When I go into these things, I get my faith up. I do a lot of praying, that type of thing, before I go in asking for a lot of protection, the whole 9 yards. But what can happen is if I have a friend, say, for instance, I may have been speaking with that week, who's maybe in another state even, they can go and if their faith isn't that strong, and they can try to pull an end around and go influence them. I've seen that. I've seen them go after family members, and I know exactly what happened. It's like, oh, okay, you're trying. They try to get your attention away. They try to break your faith by breaking someone else's faith. In other words, they can do something that you'll say, wow, how could that happen? Why would this person do this? I've seen people lash out in weird ways and do crazy things. For instance, and even physical manifestations. There was one in Dallas, Texas, where I had a friend of mine who got an attack because of something I was doing, because of a deliverance I had done. And what happened was he was sitting there in the middle of the night. It was about 1 or 2 in the morning, and was on his laptop in the kitchen. And I know we're going to break here in just a minute, so I'll be quick.
Yeah. Thanks for that. Yeah.
Yeah. And he was on his laptop in the kitchen, and he had a pit bull, which is a pretty stout dog. Pit bulls aren't known for being shy. Well, his pit bull was asleep on the bed in his bedroom, which he could see from the kitchen where he was at his laptop. And through the bedroom door, he could see a mirror. Well, he heard what sounded like the dog had been bitten, like a yelp. Pit bulls don't yelp. And next thing you know, the dog comes out, takes a defensive position next to him, as if he were guarding him at the kitchen table, and looking back towards the mirror in the bedroom and growling. Well, the mirrors can be used as portals, and we can get on. That's a whole other show. But he calls me the next day and he says, "What do you make of that?" And I said, "Well, nothing good." I said, "There's some running around." I said, you need to be on your toes. And I said, "But get that mirror out of there. Don't break it, but just get it out of there, or cover it up with something light blue." So these things will try to manipulate. And he was helping me with a case that I was working on. So he was very connected to me at that time. So it was like I was faced up, is what I call it. But he was like, "Hey, yeah, something's going on."
Wow. That's wild. Well, we are going to have to take another break. You're so right about that. And we'll be right back. And when we do, I'm going to put Geoff Allen on the spot.
You're listening to IRN, the Inception Radio Network, Chicago, Illinois.
Don't have a computer? Is your internet connection down? Don't worry. Use your trusty cell phone or landline and call into our listen line at 401-283-6700 to listen to the Inception Radio Network 24/7. Again, that call-in number is 401-283-6700. For the Inception Radio Network, I am MJ.
Do you have a smartphone? If so, Inception Radio Network is the best app for you. Available on iTunes, Android, Samsung, and most other app stores. Just search Inception Radio Network. With the app, you can listen live, check out podcasts of recent and past shows, view our videos, see what shows are coming up, who the guests are, and, via the chat room, send live questions to those guests. You know it makes sense. Check your app store now. Inception Radio Network. I'll see you there.
Looking for a cure for boredom? Never worry. IRN's interactive website introduces a number of ways to pass time while you listen to your favorite show. Choose anything from the IRN Chat Lounge, Game Lounge, Video Lounge, or the Mood Lounge. These fun, exciting features let you chat in real time with fellow listeners, view live sky watches, play daily posted online games, or pick a show based on topic. The choices are endless, so use your time wisely by keeping it all on IRN.
Hi, Bob Tarmac for MJ'sHealthyWay.com. Are you into vitamins, nutrition, meal replacements, health shakes, keeping your body in good shape, your internal engine going? Boy, do I have a perfect place for you. MJ'sHealthyWay.com. They offer the best service and products, and they'll tell you anything you need to know about any product they have to offer. I get all my vitamins, meal replacements, shakes from MJ'sHealthyWay.com. That's spelled MJSHealthyWay.com. There's so much more at the website. Go check it out. MJ'sHealthyWay.com.
Hi, Inception Radio Network listeners. This is Amanda. Just a reminder that Inception Radio Network is on Twitter. Follow us at I_R_N and keep up to date about who's on tonight, what interviews they'll be doing, who's guest spotting, what topics they'll be covering. Tweet to us, tweet about us, retweet topics to your friends, and most importantly, never miss a great show again. That's I_R_N.
Are you a fan of Inception Radio Network? Do you reckon it's the best alternative talk radio station on the planet? Well, if you do, head to facebook.com/Inception Radio Network and like the page. Tell your friends, spread the word, and keep listening to the best.
Hello, Inception Radio Network listeners. Would you like your favorite show to be played live on air? Well, now the choice is in your hands with IRN's Live Request Portal, an easy way to request your favorite show with a simple click. IRN's Live Request Portal now gives you exclusive access to all the shows. How easy is it? Simply type a show name or a guest name, click request, and even write a dedication message. That's it. Try it now. Simply visit InceptionRadioNetwork.com. Click on the Live Request tab under the show menu. Playing your favorite show is just a mouse click away.
Hey, IRN listeners, make sure you tune in to Night Vision Radio with René Barnett. René will be exposing the truth one secret at a time. When? Thursdays. Every Thursday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific. Where? Right here on IRN.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to Night Vision Radio. I'm your host, René Barnett, and we are talking tonight with Geoff Allen, psychic medium, former cop, deliverance guy extraordinaire. And we've been talking about your work in, clearing houses and doing deliverances of, negative energy, negative entities, even demonic entities sometimes. And but you also see clients on a regular basis. Oh, but before I get into that, I almost forgot. I want to tell people how to get your book. I didn't really get that out at the top of the show. Now, your book is called So You Want to Be a Psychic? And it is available through Amazon, via your local bookstore, but it's also available right there on your website, Geoff. And I think, with a lot of people that I know that are authors, sometimes it's nicer for them if people go directly to their website. It's better for them if they order directly through them. So is that the case with you? And would you like people to visit your website? And if so, please give it to us.
Sure. Yeah, they can get it through my website, and that's there's a link on there that'll take them to Red Orchid Publishing, which their website is redorchidpublishing.com. They've got a lot of other great titles as well. It's also available. If it's not in your bookstore, you can ask your local retailer to order it for you. They can pick it up and have it brought in, as well as through my website at www.geoffallen. That's GeoffAllen .weebly, WEEBLY.com. You can Google me also. And it should come up, and it's also available on Kindle as well. And so, I appreciate all that. It's an interesting book. It was written because there's so many people out there now opening up or wanting to open up their ability, and just there's really no you can't get a PhD in spirit communication. So there was really I enjoyed writing something that people could understand, and it's got a very conversationalist tone. It's almost like you said, the reviews so far have been, it's like I'm sitting down at my kitchen table having a cup of coffee with you and talking about this. And that flatters me when I hear reviews like that. Mm-hmm. So it's very easy to read. It's not hokey. It's just I'm a knock around guy, and it's very conversationalist, and so it's a lot of fun to read. I throw a little bit of humor in there too. I like to laugh, and I think that's important when you're dealing with spirits, because let's face it is kind of funny. You're talking to dead people. That's kind of humor. So I think there's a lot of people in this industry that take this way too serious. And so I like to be real light about it and say, okay, it doesn't have to be as over the top as it seems. They're just dead people. They're no different than when people are alive. It's like walking into, spirit communication, I tell people, is like walking into a bar. There's some people in there that'll be fun. You can sit down, you have a great conversation with them, and they're great people. And there might be some people in there that are not so nice. You just don't know. So it's just something. There are a lot of things to think about in the book, and when you decide that you want to take this on as a journey, and it defines how to pick up mentors, how to surround yourself with people who really know what they're doing, and how to qualify them. Because you don't know. There's no spirit communication license that shows you passed the test and that you're qualified to give advice in this field. So it gives you some things to ask of mentors and how to seek them out and how to build a relationship. Because I have a very strong belief that you have to have mentors that you can contact on a constant basis that know you. You have to build a relationship with them, because if you may be influenced by something that you don't know you're being influenced, and if they see a change in you, they have to be comfortable telling you about it, and you have to be able to go to them and say, hey, something's not right here. I did a reading for somebody, or I did a cleansing, and something's different now. Something's not right. Do you notice anything? And it's nice to have people. You have to have people that can tell you, yeah, there's something's not right. You did pick up something that you're not seeing.
Yeah.
And and it's that kind of book, and it also tells you, how to start opening, and gives you some skills and what to do to understand what you're doing, things to look for. Know that when you start doing this, the hard part is not actually communicating with the spirits. The hard part is not communicating with them. The hard part is turning it off. Once you turn, and you got to understand that you're going to start blowing up cell phones. You're going to blow up TVs. You're going to blow up your microwave oven. You're going to blow up light bulbs. Things are going to happen because you're turning on the light. You're turning on the lighthouse, and you're going to start attracting moths. And when the moths come in, you got to understand they're not there necessarily to hurt you, but they can be annoying. They can be disruptive. And we all have lives. We got to go to work, or you've got kids got to go to soccer practice. You don't need the car battery dying on the way. Right. So there are real things to think about, and as well as social ramifications, work. How people are going to perceive you, how clergy will perceive you, things like that. It discusses and addresses how to address those people, skeptics, the whole 9 yards. It's a fun read. It's really good. And I think people will really enjoy it.
Sounds like a pretty practical guide. But yeah, so go on Geoff's website and check out his book. Also, there's information there about Geoff, his background, and also Geoff does private readings, and that website will tell you how that works. Now, if you could, you see people in person, and you also do phone readings, right? So you could actually do a reading for anybody from anywhere.
Right. I do phone and in person. I do gallery events and lectures as well. And absolutely, I can do a lot of, most of my clients are over the phone because I can't be everywhere at once. So I'll do phone readings and sessions with them. I'll also get into numerology too. I'm a big numerologist, which I find really fascinating. That's a whole other show there.
Yeah, absolutely. Now you I know you've been using your sort of analytical side to do this talk show, and your sort of instructional side, and using your psychic mediumship probably comes from a different place. So if I could prevail on you and ask you to switch to that side for a moment and tell me, is there anything that you're seeing about me, or a burning something that you want to say to the listeners? What would work best for you?
Yeah, sure. Let me just go ahead and switch gears on you for a minute here. Okay. I'll just go ahead and throw a couple things at you that I'm picking up from you. And it's interesting because we did have a conversation earlier today, and I want people to know I don't go looking people up on Facebook. I don't have that great a memory. I can't even remember what I have for breakfast, so I don't memorize I don't memorize people's genealogical history or anything like that, nor do I research it. But like with you, there's a male entity that watches over you, and this is an older male. I don't know if you lost your father or not, but it's a father-like type figure. There's a T that's associated. The letter T is associated with him. Also, this was someone who. Right now my body's getting hot, which usually indicates that this was someone who was a laborer or who enjoyed the outdoors. There's my left side is starting to give me a message. Usually that will mean the person was left-handed, or they had a stroke, something that affected their left side, or had mobility problems with their left side. This is also a man of faith. And connected to classic cars. Like they're taking me back to the 50s, like the 50s style, the big rounded, and there's it's a yellow classic type car that he's showing to me. I don't know if any of that resonates with you. I'm also getting an April birthday or an April crossing.
Not sure. Now, my dad did pass just a couple years ago, and he passed in March. So, fairly close to the springtime. Now, there wasn't a T associated with his name, but then you mentioned the classic cars, and my dad was a car dealer. And we did have a lot of cars around, and he would buy the older cool 55 Chevys and different cars like that. But what was interesting was when you said classic cars, the first thing I thought of was he had a Model T.
Wow.
When you said T in his name and classic cars, that's the first thing that popped into my head.
Because he was big with the class. He was like, talk about the classic cars. And then also with the, hang on, let's see. I can get him to, okay, was he a man of faith?
Yeah, he was.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's wanting to relate that to you for some reason.
He's wanting to relate that to me?
Yeah. That either his faith got stronger after he crossed, or that he wants you to know he's right with God for some reason.
Well,
he's just
I'll tell you about that because my parents, when we got to be in high school, we used to go to church every Sunday, Sunday morning and Sunday night, brought up in the Southern Baptist Church. And they used to go with us. And when we got in high school, they sat us down and they said, we've decided we're not going to church anymore. Now, it's up to you whether you're old enough to decide for yourself whether you want to go or not. Well, we all continued to go because it was a big social thing, and when you grow up in the South, I mean, all the kids go to church and they have lots of activities and things. So, we continued to go. Well, when my dad passed a couple years ago, of course, I went back for the funeral, and they had this minister that my parents lived out on the highway outside of town. I grew up in a small town in southeastern Oklahoma. And my parents lived out on the highway, and right across the street was a church, Antioch Baptist Church. And so my family asked that minister, because he knew my dad and they had chatted and stuff a lot, to officiate at the funeral. And when at the funeral, I got pissed off, if I can say that on the air, because he kept talking about, trying to make excuses about my dad not going to church and saying that, well, I know that he really was a believer, but he kept bringing it up that he didn't go to church and things like that. And it really kind of made me mad, and so that's funny that would be what he would be bringing up.
It's interesting.
Yeah.
Did he have bad eyesight or glaucoma, or did he wear glasses? Because there's an eye thing. Okay, because there's an eye thing that he's showing me. Yeah, that's just his way of saying, yeah, it's him.
Well, the other thing was that when his health really declined, my dad got shingles in his eyes. And it was the most painful thing. And of course, he was already in his 80s when that happened. And his health just took a nosedive. He never really recovered from that, which was really weird because he was so active and, always very physical and outdoors, just like you said. He liked to do a lot of stuff. So it was... interesting, because that really was sort of the beginning of the end when he had that eye problem.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
This has got to be him then. And so, your message is that he's watching over you. He also wants you to know that you are still his little girl, and he's proud of you.
Oh, how sweet. Can I ask one question?
Sure.
I lost my daughter nearly 10 years ago. Have they met up?
You've lost your daughter?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to say yes. I don't have her coming through. And I'm kind of getting the message from him that this would not be the forum. This will be a huge emotional thing, and it's not kind of almost not like a public radio kind of thing. It'd be more. But he wants you. She's with him. They always are. I can say that by default. That family is always together on the other side. He is saying that he's also the greeter. for the family. This is like he's the patriarch, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
That this is, and so he's claiming everybody, which is weird because normally the females will. And so it's odd for the male to be saying, I'm watching over everybody. Everybody is mine. And so it's just like he's validating that, yes, she's there with him. And he cares for her as much as he does you. It's almost like he's wanting to say that she's as much a daughter to him as you are.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So,
yeah, that's interesting too, because I have her daughter and I feel that way about her.
Oh, wow.
So,
okay. That's pretty cool then. That makes a lot of sense then, because this is an intelligent man, by the way.
Yeah, he was. And it's funny that you said he's the greeter, because I mean, he was like, Mr. Personality. Well, I mean, my God, he was a car salesman, Yeah. And naturally, everybody knew him all over the place. And, he was always the talker, always the greeter. I'm surprised after he retired, he didn't get a job at Walmart as the greeter, But he very warm presence. Yeah. Yeah. He was very, very friendly guy. But anyway, well, that's really interesting that, everything that you said made sense. It kind of threw me at the beginning when you said there's a T associated with his name. And until you said the classic cars, and of course, the first car that popped in my head was the Model T. So he had it for a long, long time. But there was always cars around our place. And always. He was always picking up a car here, picking up a car there. He had, everything from Corvettes to, like I said, 55 Chevys to whatever. Anyway, that's interesting because that was really good. So that's an example of some of what you do when people either come to see you or to schedule a phone reading with you. Now, when you schedule a reading, is there a long waiting period? And how long is the reading usually?
I can do a half hour. I recommend usually at least an hour. Mm-hmm. But I can do half hour sessions whatever people want. And it's usually I'm booked out about a week and a half or so. I can squeeze them in.
Bad. Yeah. And now, are some people just easier than others to read, or does it depend on who it is on the other side?
No, it just depends on who's on the other side. The person that I'm doing the session with doesn't really have anything to do with it. Now I've had gallery events and what have you, and I've got, by the way, we got one coming up on Valentine's Day, and so if you're going to be in Ohio, come see us. Information's on my website, and you can purchase tickets through my website as well. It's a dinner. We're doing a dinner on Valentine's Day as well as gallery reading and numerology for everybody. So it's going to be a fun event here in Mount Vernon, Ohio. Yeah, but no, it's interesting.
Where are you physically in Ohio?
Mount Vernon, Ohio, about an hour north of Columbus.
Hour north of Columbus. Okay, great.
If you put your finger smack dab in the middle of the state of Ohio, that's pretty much where I'm at.
Oh, great. Is that a small city?
Yeah, it's a small town, about 20,000 people. And it's a neat little community, and Beth Deering is real well known here. She's going to be there at the event as well. So you got two psychics for the price of one that night. Wow. And with your choice of vegetable lasagna or filet mignon. So it's pretty good. It's going to be a fun night. But yeah.
It looks like we have about 6 minutes or so left. And one of the things that I know that people in the chat room were asking about, and we didn't get into too much now, we did talk about your time as a cop, and but people were wanting to know that since you've left police work, do you ever assist in cases, murder cases, missing people?
Yeah.
Do you ever assist police departments?
Yeah, it's interesting. I have been called in to assist on cases, and it's fun because it's an interesting field, because when people see a missing person case, for instance, on TV, they want to that have a gift. I know they always want to help, and law enforcement is very, very standoffish when it comes to that, because what happens is when these things air on television, they get 400 phone calls from people with all kinds of different theories on what happened, claiming to be psychic, and so they just don't follow up on it. They can't. If someone is gifted out there and they want to get into law enforcement and assisting them, what I do is I encourage them to go out and establish a relationship with an officer on the department and say, hey, I have this gift. If you guys ever need any help, give me a shout, or, come on and sit and let me buy you a cup of coffee and let me show you what I can do. And maybe that'll help. Now, my association with law enforcement was because of my background, and I knew guys that were in the field, and that's how I got called in. But like, for instance, Beth also assists law enforcement, but she was actually put in one of the detectives here in town believed in what she'd done and her gift, and so the other guys in the department didn't. So what they did was they put her in a patrol car, took her around to locations where either a homicide or a suicide had occurred or nothing had occurred. And she was told to, basically, they tested her. They said, give us your impression on what happened here. And she would say, nothing happened here. And they're like, okay. Then they take her to another location. What happened here? She's like, this one's ugly. There was a suicide here, or there was a homicide here. And she nailed it. Well, this helped establish her rapport. Now, this is not something someone can approach law enforcement, and say, hey, take me around and test me. It doesn't work like that. You have to build a rapport. You have to build up your reputation and your credibility before they'll ask you to participate in these types of things. Because, one, they also need to know your character. They need to know your background. They're going to investigate you. They're going to find out if you've been involved in drugs, criminal activity, because you may wind up becoming privy to some information that may not be public to a case. And they need to know that you're not going to go out and tell people. This is not where you get your 15 minutes of fame. Most of the time, the public will not know that you're involved, nor are you supposed to speak about it, because of the public perception of and how they interact with law enforcement. The law enforcement's administration doesn't want the public to think that they're so lost for clues that they're going to go to a psychic. It makes them look bad. It makes them look like they don't know what they're doing. So they don't want any of that made public. So it's one of those things where if you do get involved, they're going to tell you, don't tell anybody. Plus, you can also put yourself at risk, because if you're involved in, say, a missing person case that turns out to be a homicide, there's usually a person running around out there that committed the act that doesn't want to be found. And so they're not going to be a very big fan of yours, and if you go talking about it publicly, you're not a cop. You're not an officer, and you don't get paid for this. And these cases are very time consuming. They're very energy draining. So I tell people that are getting into this to shy away from those. Not to mention, these cases can involve a lot of negative energy and entities with them, because there's usually not a whole lot of good things that went down during a suicide or a homicide. So you can be exposed to some very ugly stuff spiritually. So it's one of those things where I know everyone wants to help, and bottom line is the only thing law enforcement would want out of you is, where is the body? They don't care what you saw go down. They know what went down. They just need to know where the body is. So unless you can point them to a location on the map, then save your breath, save your energy. Don't get involved, because that's what they need. They don't need your rundown play-by-play of what happened. They already know, or they'll find out. So there's a lot of different politics involved when you get into these types of events. So it's one of those things where there's a lot of other things you can do with your psychic ability than that'll help a lot more people. Yeah. So that's what I encourage people to do.
True. Well, gosh, it's really been great having you on. I really appreciate you, and I appreciate you moving the schedule. Last week I was out sick with that horrid flu that everybody's had, and so you kindly agreed to reschedule, so I'm really happy, and I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your knowledge with us.
Yeah, I appreciate coming on, and thank you so much. I had a great time. The hour and a half really went flying by. I can't believe it.
Yeah, it really did. It really did. So I want to just thank everybody for listening, and I hope you join us next week. And go to Geoff Allen's website, or just Google Geoff, Geoff Allen, Allen, and check him out. He's a talented guy. Take care, everybody. Good night.